Papa told me I couldn't do a lot of things.
I feel like I'm the chosen one.
Look at this. We created this. This didn't exist before we were here. All we are is proud and passionate. I love Toronto. I love this team. And we're going to the NBA Finals. Let's go!
Nothing matters but winning.
Welcome back to episode 63 of Rapzville Weekly. I'm your co-host, Gabriel, alongside
Adam Casucci.
And today we have two games to talk to you about. We have the Toronto Raptors versus the Brooklyn Nets and the Toronto Raptors versus the Atlanta Hawks. Both we knew beforehand going into it that they were going to be tough matchups. Brooklyn obviously has those big three, the Kings of New York, and Atlanta has made a lot of moves this offseason in terms of trades and free agency pickups, veteran pickups, and they look like a tough team as well, and they've both been doing pretty good so far. Before we get into the breakdown of each in our conversation, as always, please like and subscribe. Check us out on Instagram at Rapzville for NBA news, Raptors content, and for sure, leave your comments down below because we want to hear your opinions on some of these topics, including some trade ideas, but we'll get to that. Adam?
Yeah, for sure. If you have any comments, just leave them down below. And for our giveaway for the small, authentic DeRozan jersey, we will be deciding it Tuesday night. So if you do have a chance, comment down and follow the requiring steps in that picture. And to enter below. And do it before then, because obviously we'll be deciding the winner. Okay, so moving into our conversation, how we dealt with the big three in the Nets game. Obviously the Nets have Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, James Harden, all being all-stars in the league right now. How did the Raptors kind of deal with them to kind of weather the storm in that game?
Yeah, well, beforehand, I know people were asking Nick Nurse, I think pregame, they were talking about how are you creating some matchups here? How are you getting ready defensively? Is your head exploding trying to do all this? And it definitely is a tough thing to do. You got three superstars and usually you try to contain the superstar of the team, maybe shove Stanley on them or OG, and you're playing them as a one-on-one and you're trying to keep them out of the possession. But here you got three guys who all can ISO, who all can create, who can all score. You can't really do much but just play good defense all one-on-one. So Kevin Durant coming into this, you would think the only real matchup in terms of size would have to be Pascal Siakam. Harden and Kyrie is tough. Usually you give the better guard to Freddie, but in this case Freddie would have to guard Kyrie. But then Harden at the two was also a great player, and in terms of size, he's got pretty good height, so it was tough to see who would go there. But like we thought, me and Adam kind of thought this already, because OG was injured, Norm ends up starting and was guarding Harden, because he's a pretty solid defender, Norm, and Lowry stuck to, I think, Harris for a bit. And I think I had a feeling that something like that was going to happen. But in general, man, it's really hard to guard those three guys because they're all superstars. So it was just a matter of, can we outscore them? We know that they have one of the worst, if not the worst, defenses in the league. So trying to get out on runs and counter their scoring ability and just get some solid stops. That was kind of the game plan.
Yeah, I think Nurse got it right, guarding those three players, putting the individuals that he did on each of them. And it obviously did help with Durant and the COVID tracing thing. Durant obviously not starting the game because of COVID tracing. And then coming in late in the first quarter, and Nick Nurse said in the postgame he was kind of confused. They told him before the game that Durant was having some issues with the COVID tracing, but then they saw him check in. So he played the first half. And then they just told him, I guess the security member said, you gotta go back to the locker room, you can't play. And the NBA, I think, is pretty wrong for this because you are exposing the Brooklyn players as well as the Raptor players if he did have any COVID in his body, the virus actually in him. And, you're exposing so many players of it, and it's already done. The damage is done already. So if you're going to make them play, you might as well make them play the rest of the game, right? But it did help in the Raptors' favor. Obviously, having a guy like Kevin Durant out is obviously a good thing. But God bless him. I hope he doesn't have the virus or anything.
Yeah, it was a weird scenario. I think from what we know, someone that he was in a car with had COVID, and then from contact tracing, they had to see if he would be at risk. And they first gave him the green light. So, okay, we get it. He was okay to play. But he ended up coming in later in the first quarter, around 4 minutes left, and then got pulled out. And like Adam said, it doesn't make much sense because I know Harden talked about it post-game, so did Joe Harris. If he's in the locker room already and there is concerns that he might have COVID due to contact tracing, he could be at risk, he's already put all the people in the locker room at risk, all of his teammates. So whether or not he played that game, all the Brooklyn players were at risk, and they could have given it to the Raptors players. So just off of that risk alone, they should have postponed the game. It didn't really make much sense that they played it out, not knowing Kevin Durant's situation. And once they gave Kevin Durant the green light, he's now played about 2.5 quarters of a game. At that point, he's also infected the Raptors players and his own teammates once again. So there's no way of going around that. You might as well keep him in the rest of the game and let him play. But like you said, obviously it helps for us how he was gone, because this game could have ended really differently if he were to stay for the whole game.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of gray area there, I think, with the COVID-19 protocols, and I think the league kind of has to clear that out. And just in case, because it could kind of screw up a whole season if no one knows the protocols and no one knows what's happening, and what your eligibility is to play the game or not if you were around someone with COVID. So I think they gotta for sure clear that out. And obviously, if Kevin Durant did stay in the game, do you think he would have made a difference in the outcome, either a win or a loss?
Yeah, if you've seen any past Brooklyn games, anybody that's watching, you know that when that fourth quarter comes around, the scoring basically ends up looking like Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, Harden, Kyrie, Kevin Durant. It's a mix of those three stars taking all the shots, and if you have Kevin Durant, he's going to contribute to probably half of them, especially in the fourth. He's their clutch go-to player. I think when it comes to late games, it's either him or Kyrie most of the time. I think they go him a lot for those final shots. And, he's definitely clutch. He's a good shooter. He could shoot over pretty much anybody in the league. So if he was there, I think it would have made a huge difference for them, especially because the game did end up getting closer when he was on the floor. I believe we were up by 9 before he came in, and then eventually, it got really close. So if he was there, it would have made a big difference. And talking about the COVID thing, like you said, man, the league has to be clear on what they want, and they got to really refine what they're doing here, because people get angry and people are at risk and their lives are at stake, so obviously that matters. And players are becoming really angry about certain things. The All-Star game, people are getting angry that that's going on. And Kevin Durant had he went off on Twitter basically talking about the NBA, their PR team, the excuses they were making, the way the situation was handled. So this is a really messy situation in general with COVID.
Yeah, and I think KD would have made a bigger difference, not even just on the offensive end that a lot of people talk about him. I think he would have made a bigger difference on the defensive end, because Steve Nash, he did bench DeAndre Jordan for most of the game. I didn't understand that purpose, because the Raptors are a small team. DeAndre Jordan is always that lob threat, great rebounder, protects the rim well, and they didn't play him. So I think Brooklyn needed another big man in there to protect the paint. And I think Durant, even though he's not known as a paint protector, he's a very long guy, he plays good defense. And I think he would have made a difference on that end more than anything, grabbing rebounds, because the Raptors did get a lot of second chance opportunities. And Pascal was going to work on the inside like we saw in that game. So I think he would have made the difference in stopping that.
For sure. Trying to guard guys like Pascal, even Boucher, defensive glass, drives, inside game. He would have definitely helped in there.
So now moving on to the Atlanta game almost. With Trae Young, the pick and roll game, he was playing amazing. I mean, with that high pick and roll, he loves to create space. He was really using a lot with Capella and Collins, obviously. And he always seems to make the right decision. And he gets a lot of extra time, I noticed, because if you touch him, it's a foul. He's very delicate with the foul situations, and he likes jumping back into the player when a player is on his hip. And it's almost like a veteran move. We see Kyle Lowry do it a lot. We see the veterans in the league do it a lot. It's a very good move to use. But I think the refs and the league should really look into this. I mean, it's not like the defensive player is actually committing a foul. It's more Trae Young initiating the contact, which causes the foul. And I think this really needs to be looked at in the league, to be honest. And I think it should be changed, because that was ridiculous. Just watching that game, and Trae Young, you couldn't touch him or else anything was a foul. Hand checking, anything. Yeah. Anything you touched him with was a foul.
Yeah. Talking about his game, I think he reminds me a lot of James Harden MVP year 2017, I believe. He reminds me of that, the way that he creates his own offense and working in the pick and roll and drawing offensive calls left, right, and center, jumping into guys. He got a lot of what he wanted, but in general, he is a threat, man. He only shot 6 for 15 this game, but the way he was moving downhill, those pick and rolls, those quick floaters or tossing an oop to Capella or Collins, he's got good pieces around him now, but besides that, I think he's one of the best players in the league on pick and rolls because that offense was deadly, hard to stop. He was getting around Van Vliet or his defenders, pick and roll or not. He's fast. He's got just a good shot in general. It was dangerous. So, hats off to him for having a good game. He was tough to stop, but like you said, these refs, man, they call a lot. For him specifically, Bembry was getting frustrated. His former team hand checking, soft nudges, running into guys. That pick and roll for sure. You get too close to him, he's drawing a foul. Went to the line 14 times. You can't do much when the refs are calling so much because you can't be aggressive with the player, especially because we were getting in the bonus early. Then the refs had a bit of a power trip moment. They were giving out technicals, and it's getting out of hand, I think.
Yeah, I didn't want to get into the officiating because that was so bad. Just on all fronts. Both teams were angry with the calls being made. When usually both teams are angry, then the refs are obviously doing a horrible job to control the game. Never mind officiate the game in itself, right? So I thought the officiating was so poor. Fouls that weren't given, and then calling fouls that weren't a foul. It was just a horrible performance from the whole referee crew in general. And and I thought that was a big issue. Obviously, coming in the outcome of the game, knowing basketball is a game of runs. That if you give a team a couple of shots at the free throw line, then you miss and they hit a 3, it's a 5-point game, right? So it's a very difficult thing to adjust to. And I think the Raptors needed to play, though, with more aggressiveness and assertiveness when going to the basket, and I think that would have got them more calls.
Yeah, we probably needed more calls compared to how many they were getting. It's tough, man. I feel like the refs these days, I feel like they're on power trips with the type of calls they get. You talk back to them at all or question their officiating. You can't do anything, man, and they just get so angry and they love to just use their power against you. It's honestly tough to watch. You can't get away with anything anymore. I know Harden got a tech the other night for putting the ball down. The ref kind of called for it, and instead of passing it over, he just put it on the floor and left it there. And he was not even maybe 5 feet away from the ref. The ref teched him up. The other day, someone bounced the ball hard against the floor in aggression. I don't know who it was. Got a tech. Some of these are so unnecessary now. I get if you disrespect the referee, but stuff like that, they're just so minor and they just swing momentum in teams' directions and it gets teams riled up. And, after Bembry gets attacked, then Nurse gets attacked and it adds on to each other and it makes the game just so sloppy. And with all the foul calls in that game, specifically Atlanta, tough to watch. You can't watch a third quarter like that. For fans, especially, even for players finding a rhythm, their stoppages every 5 seconds, free throws every second. It just gets so messy.
Yeah, it felt like almost the game was the refs. It wasn't even about the players playing well or doing stuff for their team. It was almost about what the refs will do. And that's when you know the officiating is poor. And that's why I think the outcome turned the way it was. I think Trae Young was the best guy in the game to draw the fouls. And he sure did that. And that's why I think the Atlanta result happened. Atlanta win.
Yeah, I just wanted to make one last comment. You were talking about it before, the way that he draws calls and how delicate he is and stuff. And I just think basketball in general, we haven't been watching for the longest time per se. We haven't watched the 80s or 90s or early 2000s, but I feel like the game has gotten a lot more soft and it's so strategic. You see the way Kyle, when he feels the guy put his hand on his wrist, he'll throw it up and it's always a foul on the floor, stuff like that. Or, players like Luka Doncic, they're jumping into defenders. When you see someone get off their feet, you're leaning 10 feet into them in order to make contact. And it's clearly the offense initiating the contact because the defensive player is not that close to you. But stuff like that, it makes the game hard to watch. And we're not saying that the Raptors don't do that. Fred will try it, Pascal will try it, Kyle will try it, Norm. These guys, they'll do the same thing. It's just, I feel like watching the game becomes harder when calls are so easy and it's hard to be a defender nowadays, a good defender, and not get fouls called against you, left, right, and center.
Yeah, we have a lot of physical players on our team, Gabe. We got Boucher, we got Stanley, we got OG, we got Norm. We got a lot of guys that like to put their hands on players when guarding. And that's sometimes a normal thing. I mean, you would like to play physical defense. We're known to play physical defense. And and it's just so tough when the refs just don't allow it. And it's the slightest of contact. And when you are going against that, it's just so tough to play against. And it really hurts them in the end. Now transitioning to the defense on 3 balls. Obviously, we did a poor job on the perimeter. Atlanta made 19 threes on 53% shooting. And we got to really start limiting this. This is becoming a trend that just isn't stopping. I don't know if it's the height of our players on the perimeter, and the opposition has such an advantage with their guards being usually much taller. But I don't know what it is. It's just we're always getting caught giving up threes and players shooting well against us, and it's just a trend. I don't know if it's the rotations being late. Gabe, what do you think it is?
This matchup specifically, I'm not sure. They're not a high shooting 3-ball team. I think they had about 12 threes a game on average. They got 19 against us, and they shot it well. But I think this game specifically was a part of the way their offense flowed. Trey was impossible to guard on all those pick and roll attempts, and him throwing lobs to Capella and Collins were a mess. But if that wasn't happening, you have Collins making 3 threes, Reddish making 2 threes, efficiently, by the way, all these players. Herder making 5 threes, Gallinari adding 3 of his own, Snell, Solomon Hill, 2 each. All their players were just hitting 3 balls well and getting open because the game was so focused on trying to stop Capella and Trey in that pick and roll game. So it just became a mission for us to try stopping that, and it left players wide open, and they were making good shots. What that means in terms of Raptors defense, I don't know if it's preparing better for matchups like this, doing more, I guess, game preparation, reading into the players, scouting reports, seeing that they like to run that high pick and roll, and how do we stop it? That could be it, but is it also like our matchups? Is it having a guy like Baines? We need a better center who knows how to step on the high pick and roll and can also get back to the inside, because, Baines got blown by easily by Trey whenever that was a thing. So like part of it's matchup, part of it's preparation. That's really all I can say about it.
Yeah, it was obviously a tough matchup. Obviously, Atlanta has a lot of players with length and a lot of height, so it's kind of the opposite of our lineup. So it kind of hurt us in that regard.
I forgot to mention that. Also, like their starting lineup, pretty much everybody, shooting guard Herder 6'7", everyone else is above that height, and we have 6'4" Powell at the 3 guard. So we're already extremely undersized there, pretty much in each of the positions, a couple inches undersized.
Yep, and that hurts us in the end. Obviously, we can't get up to contest as high, and they just shoot over us and hit their shots. I also want to speak about Bembry's increased role, kind of playing as that veteran backup point guard. Davis taking a little bit of a step back, still playing, but he kind of is going into that shooting guard position, allowing Bembry to make more of the plays. I thought Bembry's shooting was the most important thing in his game right now. I think it's been great to see him shoot the ball well, and when he's wide open, he's shooting it with confidence. And when he came to the Raptors, I didn't think he had a lot of shooting ability when shooting the ball. He doesn't shoot a lot, but when he does, it goes in. So I really think that that's an important thing to his game. Because we know he's a great driver. He likes to drive and kick, draw the 2 guys when going to the rim and kicking it out for a 3. And I think that's been the benefit of having him.
Yeah. It's crazy watching him play, because you look at his stats and you're like, okay, the guy doesn't put up any points, doesn't really shoot the ball, but he's getting a lot of minutes. But when you watch the game, you love seeing when he comes on, because you know the impact that he makes. He just makes winning plays. He gets stops, makes the right passes, and moves the ball well, drives and kicks, and sometimes when he gets open, he shoots it well. So it's just been crazy to watch that. The past 2 games, the ones that we're talking about, I think he shot 5 3-balls and he made 3 of them. For a guy that doesn't really shoot the 3-ball often and shot around maybe 29% last season, he's shooting now, a very solid percentage for the little threes that he takes. He's shooting them well. So I'm glad that he's found a bit of a rhythm there and finding his shot, being confident in his shot, and maybe he likes playing against tough opponents. Maybe he played well because it was his former team, but he seems to just be doing a lot better in terms of shot making, and that's really important for his role on the offense, because we know defensively he's already making a huge impact with his veteran experience.
Yeah, I think when the Raptors bench does succeed, I think it's because there's so much team players. And what I mean by that is a guy like Yuta Watanabe, DeAndre Bembry, Stanley Johnson, guys that play for the team. And I think it makes an impact, it gives energy to the bench, and I think that's why they've been playing so good. It's just trying to make the right play. There is no individualism, trying to get points for yourself or stat pad or none of that. It's all team play, and I think that's the best way to win the game and have positive minutes coming off the bench.
Yeah, I agree.
Powell. He has been keen on his last performances. His last 10 games basically have been great. Getting a lot of 20-point games. The question is, when OG does come back, does this continue? And I notice when he's obviously starting, everyone knows the scene that he plays better, and he does have better nights. I think with him is when you give him minutes, I think he just produces. I think he's a rhythm guy. Once he feels the rhythm of the game, the pace of the game, he kind of he puts his performance in because of that. And I think he's a streaky guy, and I think he has been showing consistency though over the last 10 games. But I am worried about when OG does come back and he does get moved to that bench role. I think does he have that same impact?
Yeah, in his past 10 games, he's only had one bad game. Every other game has been pretty remarkable from him. And the thing is, as like the Raptors management team, like what do you do when OG comes back? Because are you afraid that he's going to slow down? You know he's hot and he should stay hot, but is it a matter of staying in the starting lineup, or can you find him 30 plus minutes a night off the bench because he's just putting an incredible impact to this team and he's performing night in and night out? Against Brooklyn, he had 18 points and 5 rebounds on 7 for 13 shooting, efficient, in 36 minutes. And then against the Atlanta Hawks, he had 20 points, 4 boards, 7 for 15 shooting, 2 steals, 2 assists on 32 minutes. So that 20 points a game is getting a pretty much a nice consistent average for him, which is important when you have someone like Kyle Lowry who's taking a step back in scoring wise, and Fred can't be the only top scorer every night. Baines doesn't do much. And you have Pascal and Boucher on and off type thing. So his impact's been huge. So the question is, what do you do? When you get OG in there, do you try finding a way to go small in the starting lineup now? Or do you just keep giving him tons of minutes? I think either way, just find a way to get him his minutes, man, because he seems to be producing when he gets 30 minutes plus a night.
I think the way Nurse takes this, Gabe, is if the Raptors are in a lead or trying to preserve a lead, I think OG is in the game. I think when the Raptors need a little bit of offensive punch and are trailing in the game, and you still get defense from Norm, like we've seen, I think they go Norman Powell into the lineup. That's just the way I feel. Or they can even have both of them in there and kind of move OG to the 4, since obviously he's been such a presence on the inside this season, and us not having a lot of bigger players, strong players. So that's what I think is going to happen there. And one last thing I wanted to speak about, there has been a lot of rumors lately about the Andre Drummond situation, and obviously the Cleveland Cavaliers acquiring Jared Allen in their deal, in that big trade with James Harden. Jared Allen is a very young player, and I think Cleveland will try to work with him as their starting center in the future. And Andre Drummond is kind of left on an island here. He should be obviously a starting center. He should be playing those all-star minutes. But with Jared Allen and trying to get him involved, it's going to kind of cut his minutes short, and I don't think he'll be putting up the performances he was earlier on in the season because of that. So I think the Raptors should kind of look at this situation and say, hey, we need rebounding. He's kind of the guy that will plug like our problems that we have on the rebounding, and he will bring a lot of strength and obviously size, being one of the biggest players in the league, and also shot blocking. So I think he will plug a lot of issues in the Raptors lineup, and I think a deal for this should be OG, Norman Powell, and a first-round pick. I think that will be a fair trade for both sides. I know we can do a lot of things with Stanley, moving Utah, get him more involved in the rotation. And we do have a lot of pieces that we aren't using as much, so I think we should utilize them more, and we can give up a guy like OG with a lot of potential, Powell, who has been playing great, playing at an all-time high basically this season right now. So I think that would be the best deal for the Toronto Raptors to send Cleveland.
For Andre Drummond, I think this is going to be an interesting move, and it came out earlier in the year around January that he was looking to get traded, and I thought that was interesting because, Cleveland, he's a fantastic center, so, for sure. He scores about 20 points a night, and he leads the league in rebounding, about 14 a game, so he's consistently putting up about 20 and 14 a night, and he's 1.2 blocks a game, 1.6 steals. He's a defensive animal, so when you talk about filling that hole for us in terms of rebounding and defensive presence, he's the definition of that. And back in January when when all these reporters were trying to put together trade propositions and teams that could work good for him, Raptors was always the number one option because we're in desperate need of someone like him. And I think we've had interest in him in the past. So there's an opportunity for that. And there is some pieces, I guess, that could be good for Cleveland. Like you said, OG or Powell might be interesting to them. And they have Jared Allen, who's been playing great in the minutes he's had. So I'm sure that they could be looking to build around him. And another good thing with Drummond is his efficiency. He shoots quite well, 48% from the field. The only thing bad is kind of his free throw, but besides that, I think that he's just an absolute animal and would be a huge addition to this team and could definitely swing things around. Even if we give up pieces like Powell or OG, those are more replaceable than a huge big name center. They're hard to come by and hard to acquire, especially in something like free agency. Especially when we're in Canada and it's hard to bring big pieces here. So pulling him in a trade would be huge, and then maybe just trying to fill that spot in the 3-4, off the bench, 2-3, whatever they end up playing. That could be something you could more work with a little bit better on lower cap space. But right now, Drummond's about $28 million, and this is his final year of his contract. So then, in terms of re-signing, it could be a problem. We've seen what free agents have done to us in the past. But I think for this season, he'd be an absolute huge addition. I'd love to see it.
Yep, and I totally think he's the guy to go for. I think Masai's got to be really aggressive on this. I think a lot of teams are keen on him and would like a great center like Andre Drummond. And I think Masai's just got to try to pull a trigger here. With whatever we got, we don't have much to lose. We're not playing up to our potential this season. I know it's still early. But I think he is a great piece that will bring us success. He's a great guy on and off the court. I think he will be great in the Raptors locker room and even better on the court, I think.
Okay, now I'm going to quickly go through the games. There's not much we kind of gave the rundown. I'm just going to point out some specific performances. So the Raptors won the first game against the Brooklyn Nets, 123-117. And this game basically started off with a fantastic first quarter, kind of slowed down in the second and third with the likes of Kevin Durant, Harden, and Kyrie coming to life. And then in the fourth, we ended up closing it out strong and taking the victory. And for the Raptors, the showing was basically Lowry and Siakam carrying us in this game, making all the big shots. Lowry had 30 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists on 12 for 18 shooting, 2 steals, 6 for 9 from 3. This is someone that we've been constantly harping upon and saying that he needs to step up his scoring because he's been shooting horribly every single game. But this was finally one game where he stepped up when we needed him to. I think he just likes those tough opponents. Fighting against 3 All-Stars, it's as tough as it gets. And he stepped up, made his shots, was clutch when we needed him to. And in the third, he kind of slowed down because he was passing a lot more things off, trying to get his teammates, get them going. But that proved kind of bad for us because we ended up getting into a very close scenario. And then luckily, he stepped up again in the fourth, started taking his shots, and it helped us win the game. And Pascal, 33 points, 11 rebounds, 6 assists, 12 for 23 shooting, 3 steals, and a block. He was basically just dominant this game, getting to the inside, attacking the basket. He was just making what felt like everything, even though he shot about 50%. He was making a lot of baskets, and he was just being really strong inside, being crafty, making tough layups, and helping carry that offensive load. When Kyle knew that, he was drawing a lot of attention with how well he was playing, he started to just feed Pascal, who helped us stay in this game for most of the night. And besides them two, the other big performances were Powell, like we said, the 18 points, doing fantastic in the starting role, and Boucher, also we mentioned, 17 points, 9 rebounds, 8 for 14 shooting, 2 blocks. He kind of felt a little quiet the past couple of games, and we talked about that. In this game, he stepped up big, and he started being more aggressive with the Brooklyn kind of going with a smaller lineup, taking off Jordan for a bit. He really attacked the glass, offensive putbacks, and it helped them do really well this game. And one thing that we want to talk about in terms of being negative was Van Vliet only had 11 points, 4 boards, 4 assists on 4 for 16 shooting, 1 for 9 from 3. So obviously that needs to be fixed in order to help us win games. Usually under 25% or about 25 is never a good number to shoot at. And he just struggled. But, when he struggles, the one thing I applaud him for is that his defense always steps up. He had 2 steals and 2 blocks on the night, and he's always a pest. If he's not making his shots, he basically is showing that he's good to be on the floor because he doesn't want to come off, man. The guy loves to play, so he definitely makes an impact one way or another. Now for the Atlanta Hawks, we lost this one, 132-121. And in terms of this game, we basically won the first quarter, and we looked strong. Me and Adam thought this is going to be a good game. We're playing well. And then we just got absolutely destroyed the next 3 quarters because we suddenly couldn't play defense. We didn't know how to stop Herder. We didn't know how to stop anybody, man. Collins hitting shots. Capella and Young, like we said, unstoppable. Gallinari was troublesome for a bit. It was just hard to do. Van Vliet had a good game, although he didn't shoot the best. Like we said, he was just doing a good job of getting to the line and attacking, being aggressive. He had 25 points, 6 boards, and 10 assists on 6 for 18 shooting. He had 2 steals as well, doing it on both ends at least. Lowry went right back to that shooting slump. 9 points, 4 for 16 shooting, 1 for 7 from 3. Powell, like we said, 20 points, good game, stepped up. And Siakam went a little quiet, 15 points, 6 boards. Had a really dumb mistake right near the end of the game. We were trying to cut down their lead, and he forced a really tough shot, got blocked by Collins, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. And it really swung momentum. We cut the lead, I think, to 5, and we needed a bucket. It was early in the shot clock. We were trying to cut the lead as fast as possible, but it was just a bad shot to take, and we could see it from a mile away. It looked like he was going to get stopped. He had one defender at him, and then he had Collins chasing as well. It was just a bad force, and it really swung the momentum, and it was one of the reasons we lost the game in the end. And Boucher, he had a fantastic performance, career high, 29 points, 10 rebounds, double-double, 10 for 13 shooting, 2 blocks, absolutely monster game from him. Our whole team wasn't shooting too well, although we had guys that had put up good numbers. The shooting was horrible. So Boucher was so efficient, so important in this game at getting putbacks and keeping the team alive, keeping it close right till the very end. So shout out for him in 32 minutes, putting up a performance like that and trying to help our team win.
Yeah, I just want to make a little bit of a comment on Chris Boucher. I thought these performances that have been of late are the difference between him this year and him last year. Last year, he had that big run on the Western Conference swing when he was versing the Clippers, the Lakers, those teams, and he had a great stint of games. And then he went a bit quiet for the rest of the season. Now we're starting to see very consistent Chris Boucher. We're seeing him. He had that big run. He went quiet for like 1 or 2 games, and now he's back to himself. He's been much more consistent. He's been really a freak on the glass. Every rebound is going to him offensively. He's got to do a better job boxing out on the defensive end. But other than that, he's been playing great. He's learning the schemes defensively. His rotations have been great, helping on guards who are getting blown by. And he's really learning the Raptors system. And this guy, I think, is going to be special one day.
He's like Powell. You give him minutes, he performs, he produces. So finding minutes for those guys are important. I didn't talk about the other team too much because Brooklyn, everyone kind of stayed under 20 points on the night. Their leading scorer was Harris, surprisingly, with 19, so not even one of the big stars. And for Atlanta, like we said, Trey and Capella were problems. Trey had 28 points, 13 assists. Capella, 23 points, 16 rebounds, both with double-doubles. And their guys like Collins and Herter, 19 points each, just shooting good, being good pieces for them to defer from the Capella-Trey destruction. That's pretty much it. We hope you all enjoyed. Like I said at the beginning, like and subscribe. Check us out on Instagram at Rapzville. Leave your comments down below. And if you can, you have 1 day to enter that giveaway. So get on that. But yeah, we hope you all enjoyed. That's us signing out. Peace.